UFC 193 shocked the world as Holly Holm knocked out Ronda Rousey, and as one kind commenter said, I have finally taken my head out of Ronda Rousey's ass. So maybe I'm going to move it over to Holly Holm, the new Bantamweight champion of the world, joined by Francis Maxwell and Shane Faison from fightTIPS. Make sure to check out his channel, give it a subscription. Lots of awesome content, fighting videos to check out there as well. Gentlemen, we're going to start with Shane over here. I want to hear your thoughts through this fight, what you brought. When you went into watching this fight, were you on the Rousey's definitely going to win side?
I was.
Were you on the Holly Holm is going to shock the world?
Honestly, I thought that it was all hype. I thought they were just trying to sell pay-per-views, and they were talking about how Holly Holm is the one to beat Ronda Rousey. She's a great fighter. I love that she's a boxer. I myself am a boxer, and I love seeing boxers do what they do in there, utilizing footwork and the long reach, and she did just that. I was just as shocked as everyone else. You know, I was screaming at the screen. I'm sure most people were. But what impressed me the most, yeah, she used her range, she used her jab, she was on the back pedal, great head movement, which works great against judokas like Ronda Rousey, was her ability to execute the game plan perfectly. Mm-hmm. Now you got to think about this. This is someone, you're fighting Ronda Rousey, who most men are scared of, would be scared of to get in the ring with. Not many people get in the ring and experience the feelings that you feel, but it's sort of like public speaking times 100, because now you're stuck in a cage against someone trying to rip your head off, against someone who tears people apart within 12 seconds of a match. But she went in there, kept her cool, and did everything that her and her camp had trained for, and I thought that was awesome. So I have a ton of respect now for her.
I think that Ronda Rousey looked gassed. I think she looked gassed more than anything after the first 10, 15 seconds, because we know how aggressive she is, and we know that once she gets you within her grasp, that's when the problems start to occur. But also, I think she set up her own downfall. She was almost telling, like, she was going to go in and try and fight Holly Holm with her own game, right? She was going to try and strike her, outstrike her as well. And that is part of her game plan. Usually, people often assume that Ronda Rousey goes in and takes people straight to the ground. I mean, more often than not, when you stand toe-to-toe with someone at the start of the UFC, you need to start throwing jabs at each other, you need to start striking, and then that's where you get the advantage to go forth and take the takedown. That is where Holly Holm's completely had her game plan stood up, whereas she was going to, as you mentioned, back up Ronda Rousey. She was not going to give her that ability to get in tight and grapple her to the ground. She stood her off. She threw her jabs perfectly. Her combos were frighteningly good at times. And more often than not, I was amazed, obviously, by the knockout, but I was amazed at how she was able to evade every single time Ronda Rousey tried to get inside her. And that for me, was what was astonishing. Of course, the knockout, as I mentioned there, was perfectly timed, and it was executed, as I said, to perfection. But she just looked... She was almost like invincible around the ring, how much she was just able to maneuver. Like, as Ronda Rousey, what you see with her is she's able to direct her opponent where she wants him. So when you see her in those first 15 seconds, it's strategic aggression. It's not just her running in and grabbing. It's her directing someone, closing down the octagon to a small space. Holly Holm did not allow her to do that. She made sure that the octagon was as wide as possible, and then before you know it, Ronda Rousey was starting to panic, starting to fly in there, like, as you just mentioned, we will mention, like a matador, she was just basically guiding her into an area where she did not want to be, to allow for that moment to strike her. And I think it was just an amazing spectacle of how someone who is so good at boxing just completely have a well-rounded game plan and execute it to perfection.
The average fan doesn't realize that boxing is more than just punches.
Yes.
So many people just look at the punches, right? And they're like...
I really like bringing Shane on.
well, they're like, yeah, if they stand toe-to-toe, Ronda Rousey hits mitts. She's been working on her boxing for years now. She's a great boxer. She's an okay boxer, to be realistic. She is, and especially when you're comparing her to someone like Holly Holm, she's an okay boxer. But when footwork comes into play, angles, head movement, she put a clinic on Holly Holm. She looked fantastic, and I mean, that's really ultimately that won her the fight. I mean, you were right that she looked gassed in the beginning, but not only that, her chin was up like this. That's boxing 101. Her mouth was wide open. We don't know if her jaw was broken at that point, but it was like 30 seconds in. I'm like, is Ronda Rousey really not know to keep her jaw closed and her chin tucked? I don't know. It's just...
I want to discuss a little bit about the leg kick, too, which first I want to hear from Holly Holm. As her post-fight press conference was roughly 45 minutes long, but I found a nice snippet about from one of the Australian reporters that was there. It took place down in Melbourne, Australia, discussing some of that devastating knockout.
Second of all, throughout the week you spoke about visualization. Throughout the fight, did you visualize that this would happen throughout the fight camp?
I visualized if a head kick was there to go for it. We didn't want to go out of our way, you know, searching for it. I didn't want to force it. She can come straight forward, and with your legs in the air, with someone coming straight forward, you can be off balance, things like that. So there's times to use them, times to not. If it was there, I wanted to take it, and it was there.
So what I found so fascinating about that, and I don't mean to take a shot at Ronda Rousey's intelligence in terms of IQ in the octagon, it seems like the more you watch of Holly Holm and the more that she continues to discuss, her game plan for that fight and her trainers had that not so much locked up, but so much to the point that she stuck with it and was able to see from that first round and a half before that knockout came that she was in control of the fight. And she did, as we've mentioned before, kept her distance. But it seems to me that Holly Holm is a higher IQ fighter in the octagon with that game plan. And I think that's a great example of how is she didn't want to force that leg kick. If it was there, she was going to take it, but it was not going to be forced. And it kind of almost fell into her lap, which maybe is why she didn't go for it in the first round.
I think what it was more than that was that Ronda Rousey sort of got a big head. You know, she was demolishing people and probably thought that she was invincible. Yeah. And she literally said in an interview, I haven't put a judo gi on since I started MMA. I've just been working on my boxing. And she went for, she clinched up with her twice. She got one takedown. She went for the hip toss and then swept her leg out instead. Holly Holm got up really quick. And then the second time, she got taken down. She got taken down by a boxer. So I think it was more so that she just wasn't prepared.
Yeah. What I did see, though, through the World Wide Web was a lot of people swiftly turning, right, and forgetting far too quick that this is a 12-time like unbeaten, in 12 fights before Ronda Rousey, beating opponents with little sweat. And the fact is that she's still a phenomenal world champion, right? And I'm not saying we're saying that here, but I have seen that so many times. It's like, oh, we knew she was set up. Once she was challenged, it was always going to come to this. She'd fought crap before this. That's bullshit. Like, that is bullshit because you have to fight who's up against you. I hate people that say they're never in a tough division or they're never in this. Like, you can only fight who is coming against you. That is why when many people in any sport disregard someone's, I would say, legendary status because of the people they played against, you can't alter who you're fighting against. Ronda Rousey fought and demolished those who stepped forth to her, those who she could fight in that division. So I don't want to completely disregard that because it was far too often, far too many people on social media were taking this fight as a means to say that Ronda Rousey, I don't think anyone said she was done. Like, they're definitely, obviously we know it's going to be a rematch and it's going to be interesting to see, but she's still an unbelievable fighter in this division, unbelievable fighter in the way that she executes her game plan. And of course, I agree with what Shane said. I think she did have a little bit of a big head, but that is natural when you've been fighting so many people who haven't even been able to stand with you for 30 seconds near enough. Like, she's barely been taken by the minute mark to the point that she hasn't really been tested in that state. And you can train that. You can train, as you're saying, like, I could train every day for a soccer game that's 90 minutes long or 130 minutes long if it goes into extra time. But if it goes into extra time and you're in that heat at the moment, nothing prepares you for that way your body is adjusting to it. You get so amped up, you get short of breath, and that's what you could see with Ronda Rousey. It's almost like she was never prepared for someone to take her further distance than what she realised, and that's why when you see Holly Holm in that second round, I think almost all of us were just assuming this is just a matter of time. Like, she looks so tired, she looks so sloppy. She made one of the best fighters we've ever seen look sloppy. That was the main thing. Like, that I keep talking about it. When she threw that punch and like went head first into the cage, like that was just mind blowing to me. How she can make someone who's of that legendary status look so average at that point. Yeah,
no, I agree. I agree with that. And I was going to say, of all people to call her own destiny,
she's the type of fighter that you have to be very, very patient with. I feel like she's going to try and like keep distance and keep far away from me and get me frustrated to a point I'll make a mistake and she can try and kick me in the head, but it's not going to go like that. Not the way that she wants.
So if Ron knew that, then I don't know why I didn't put my money on Holly Holm, who was 22-1 odds. Yeah. The opening line. By the way, there's a lot of people on Twitter who, in a sports gambling reference of it, they go like, not really, considering like at the closing point, like right up to the fight, it was 8-1. So there's a lot of outrage about the Buster Douglas comparison to Holly Holm, and no, it wasn't as big of an upset. I think, as Buster Douglas was to Mike Tyson, but it's still a huge upset in the UFC world.
It was a big
Vegas was still like,
exactly.
No problem. Who's the big winner here?
Like, oh God, I don't even look at that. I can watch this on, as you've mentioned before, I can watch this fight on Instagram. I can throw $5 on it. Bam. I'll see it happens in 15 seconds. No, instead I watched the fight. I was really thrilled with the end result just because I thought it was a great... Everyone likes to see a giant fall.
Yeah.
I think there's so much about the underdog in these fights that it was exciting, and it really brought like Twitter exploded, and we're going to get to that in a different clip on memes and tweets. But Shane, you were discussing with us before this clip about a jiu-jitsu video.
Yeah, so a judo video, one of the Olympic judo videos with Ronda Rousey, and it's a breakdown of her style, and they're highlighting her judo throws and how good she is at it, except they pointed out one of the things that she's bad at, and it's if someone is, in fact, backing up and circling out, that she has trouble. She can't control the head, she can't get the ogoshi or whatever hip toss that she likes throwing. And there was a point in the fight against Holm where it was like to a T the exact same thing, where she was chasing after her, clawing after her. And it was at that point, I think it was towards the end of the first round, that I'm like, this is it. Like, they've been studying videos, and she's executing that game plan perfectly. Ronda's going down.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. Gentlemen, ladies, we have a new bantamweight champion of the UFC, and her name is Holm. There will be a rematch knowing Dana White, knowing his eye is on the dollar signs, there'll be a rematch, and it will be a very enticing rematch. I'm excited for it. Now that Ronda Rousey has, I guess is Ronda a different clip we can totally discuss about, but is Ronda Rousey now the villain? After she was the hero in shining armor, after destroying every fight she stepped into the octagon for and with. Francis Maxwell on Twitter, @Francis_Maxwell, Shane Faison @fightTIPS, if I'm correct.
fightTIPS on Twitter, yes.
fightTIPS on Twitter. Make sure to check out the YouTube channel as well. Like, favorite, subscribe, give it a look. It's awesome. And of course, come back to TYT Sports for more sports news. Comment below with your thoughts on UFC 193. We'll see you next time.
And in the thoughts of Alfred, why did we fall, Ronda?